So Labor Day is behind us. We're now inside 60 days to Election Day, much to decide. The Democrats hope that some level of protecting the right to an abortion will motivate their base, but also get independents, maybe some moderate Republican women to vote Democrat this November. We're going to talk this week with Republican Congresswoman Mariannette Miller Meeks about that issue, her party's focus on prices, and what she thinks of those anti-Biden flags in her district. Plus, we'll have a deeper look at how Deidre DeJear happened to stop by a Marion County restaurant and coffee shop and the challenges of that county.
From your local election headquarters, this is The Insiders with Dave Price.
So the polls show that most Iowans want a person's option to a legal abortion to remain. Now, they might disagree on the circumstances, but Democrats hope that voters will side with them this election day, as some Republicans are pushing for a complete ban on abortions. Democratic candidates have been stressing abortion rights along with public school support, while Republican candidates are often stressing high inflation and COVID-19 shutdowns from 2 years ago. I asked Republican Congresswoman Mariannette Miller Meeks about the difference in the focus.
First and foremost, people are concerned about inflation. We know that even though gas prices are a little bit down, they're still markedly up from where they were in 2020 before President Biden was inaugurated. The price of food is continuing to go up, so people are struggling. Wages have gone up a little, but they haven't kept pace with inflation. We anticipate that the Social Security Administration is going to increase, the largest increase in decades, and that's because of inflation. So the metric that they go by looks like 9.1% increase.
And you're talking about the yearly increase, right?
Yearly increase. And so, you know, that's a measure of how people are struggling. You also have bond prices going down. And so why is that important? Because people on a fixed income or who are trying to save, and they're trying to save in safe investments, are seeing less return, and they're seeing a drop in the bond market. So things that were done in our state last year when Governor Reynolds and our legislature passed the waiving taxation, state income tax on retirement income, extraordinarily important for these individuals. So I think inflation is the biggest issue people are concerned about. They're concerned about crime. Parents, I can tell you, they're concerned about having an input in their children's education and how this administration has approached them, and the fact that Iowa kept schools open, and I was part of that as a state senator.
After they were closed.
After they were closed. We had closed them in March through May, the 1st of June, and then that fall reopened them. And that's extraordinarily important when, you know, we knew that there was going to be learning loss. It was indicated even for that short, brief period at the spring of 2020 that there was learning loss, and now you have the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, coming out with that. The National Education Association, or Performance NEPA, coming out and saying that there has been learning loss, and significant learning loss, and especially in lower income and underprivileged neighborhoods. So I think those things are extremely important. The Dobbs decision, Roe, this goes back to the states. So now people within their states will have input into that decision, and nothing has really changed, and certainly not in our state. I think the Republicans have some benefit towards education, which we have not had in a long time. So it's not an issue that we're afraid to talk about.
Now, gas prices, they've been dropping below $3 per gallon at some Iowa gas stations after surging near $5 back in June. That Russian attack on Ukraine increased, then decreased consumer demand, record oil company profits, government priorities, emergency release from the country's strategic reserves. All of those things have been cited as factors for this fluctuation. Those come from industry leaders and economists who talk about all this stuff. Now, Miller Meeks blames President Joe Biden when the prices went up. She does not credit him now that they have fallen.
We were already out of the pandemic. When President Biden was inaugurated, the first thing he did was to cancel the Keystone Pipeline, and that was 11,000 union jobs and many more jobs after that.
We were out of the pandemic when he started in 21?
He started in 21. We were already out of the pandemic. Our state was already open. Our economy was already booming. A lot of red states were already opened up. So there may be blue states that had not opened up their economies, but the majority of the country was already working through the pandemic. We already had people traveling, people flying. I mean, I can tell you that the number of people on flights had dramatically increased. And so when you cancel the Keystone Pipeline, you send a message in your campaign that you're going to shut down fracking, you're going to shut down the oil and gas industry. This is an industry where it is extremely expensive to be able to invest in. And when the message is that you're going to end that industry, then they don't invest. It's a lot of money to invest when we haven't had auctions of leases. You have leases that were already going to be expired in 2 or 3 years. Why would a company drill? And so,
but they're going to have they expect record production next year. Doesn't that contradict?
Not if you have a president that is going to close down your industry. So it's a futures market. Do you think this is price gouging? If it was price gouging, earlier when prices were near $5, why isn't it price gouging now? Why wouldn't the oil and gas companies continue to price gouge? No, that was rhetoric in order to deflect the blame from their policies. And we need a policy that, number one, can protect the environment, but two, gives people the amount of energy they need. So I was at COP26 last year, and they think energy demand is going to go up 60% over the next decade. How do you meet rising energy demand if you want to have no fossil fuels, no natural gas, which natural gas, by the way, doesn't have a carbon footprint? So I think we need a flexible policy. We need a policy that allows us to, I saw your face when I said no carbon footprint. It doesn't have the same carbon emissions. I'm not saying production of natural gas doesn't have carbon input, but here in Iowa, we have a great story to tell. Over 50% of our energy is from renewables, whether it's ethanol, biodiesel, biomass, manure, wind, solar. We used to have a nuclear power plant in Palo, which shut down, but for the first time, people are looking at nuclear. Not myself, I've been looking at nuclear for a while.
But when you say that they're against oil, how are you squaring that with, if it's going to be a record year of production next year, how does that make any sense? They wouldn't support that then, and they wouldn't forecast that.
They're not supporting it. The
When
Biden
we had
administration
the
is
Energy
not.
Secretary on a couple weeks ago, she said, long term, yes, we want to cycle away from fossil fuels, but that's not where we're at right now. People need to have adequate, be able to get to whatever energy they need. So they're supporting both record production next year plus expansion of wind, solar, and EVs, electric vehicles.
That may be what she says, but that's not what their actions show. When you don't have auctions for leases, when you shut down potential openings in Alaska, their actions say we're not going to permit oil and gas industry to go forward. And we could do this. Right now, we could be helping Europe with record high energy prices, and I know have seen the same reports I have. They're looking at record high energy prices in Europe now because of their shift away from fossil fuels. And in Germany's case, their shift away from nuclear and looking at bringing coal-fired plants back on. I just think we can have an energy policy that allows us to meet increased energy demands, doesn't have brownouts, doesn't have sky-high electricity prices, so we can compete globally around the world, but also gets us to a place where we can approach carbon neutrality. I think you need the flexibility among states to be able to do that. Some places, electric vehicles make a lot of sense. Other places, they don't make as much sense. And we should be able to have the flexibility to do that and then have a carbon offset or carbon emission met in another manner.
All right, up next, how she talks to Republican doubters when it comes to elections.